Hello everyone and welcome back to my videos. In this video I'm going to talk about toddler discipline. And so if you have children that are ages 1, 2, 3, today I'm going to share with you how to discipline your toddlers without violence, without yelling, without hitting, without losing your mind. And I'm going to share my best tips coming from a mom of 5. I've been doing this for a while. And if you see us at a restaurant, at church, at a store, at a doctor's office, not saying this to brag, but my kids are pretty well behaved, self-regulated, and we get so many compliments everywhere we go. And I love to share what I've done with my kids because I have not done it through violence. I've talked about how hitting is not a form of discipline and how it teaches children to resolve conflict with violence. It breaks the bond between parent and child. And I have found that children that are hit usually are the ones that tend to hit their siblings. They tend to hit their parents. They tend to have a level of violence and not being able to self-regulate themselves. So today we're going to talk about how to help your children these ages, because these are hard ages. And a lot of times people that are in support of spanking and hitting, they are in support of it in the younger years because they don't know what else to do and they can't reason with a child these ages. So today I'm going to share with you a better way. Alright, so let's get started with toddlers so that you could kind of understand a little bit. We need to really see children in a different way because they can't think like we do. They're illogical, they're unreasonable at these ages. They don't understand danger, they don't understand social norms. They are completely innocent and ignorant in bliss, right? They also love to explore. They are in complete wonder of the world around them and of different things that happen. So if you see a toddler like on a high chair and they're dropping things over and over again, they are in wonder that, wow, like I'm dropping this thing and it's making a sound. This is so cool. I'm doing this. I'm making this thing fall to the ground and it's making a sound. And then there comes mom, and mom is mad now. And she's yelling at me and she's telling me to stop. Children have not yet reached an adult brain. They are discovering the world around them. And if we can look at them with the innocence that they have, then we can really begin to understand how to help them and how to discipline them. So let's talk about some of the first things that you can do for toddlers to prevent what we think is misbehavior. So let's talk about some physical boundaries. So for all of my toddlers, one of the best things that I have done is put baby locks, baby gates up, doorknob locks, socket covers, all of those things. Cover things up that you don't want kids getting into. That's going to solve so much conflict. You know, this is how kids make a huge mess out of things. They break things. They get into areas that really frustrate us. And instead of letting them have access to those areas that can get them into trouble, let's prevent the access to those areas. Let's put boundaries around areas. That is super important. Now, we don't want to discourage exploration. So what I like to do is to leave some areas where they have complete independence to play. Even in my kitchen, I'll leave like one drawer that is open and they can go in there, and I'll have kitchen utensils in there and things that are safe, like made out of plastic, that they can safely explore. But there has to be boundaries, especially with things that are related to safety. Covering those sockets. I remember a friend telling me that one of her girls put a fork in a socket and electrocuted herself. She burned herself so badly. We don't think about these things. And yes, cover up your sockets because kids are curious. They are in complete wonder and they want to know how things work. Instead of yelling and hitting kids, when they do things that get them into danger, we remove their access to danger. That is one of the first things that I recommend for parents, and it's going to solve so many things. Also, when it comes to your special belongings like your cell phone, your special books, your electronics, let's not leave those to children's access. Let's put them up in a higher cabinet. Let's put them where they cannot access it. Let's remove things that kids can have danger with, like a table that they can climb on top of, or something that they can get cut with. And that way, it's going to remove a lot of conflict. The same goes with shelves and TVs. TVs being attached somehow to the wall is very important. A lot of kids knock TVs on top of themselves. Also, if you have bookshelves that they can climb, make sure that those bookshelves are fastened to the wall so that they cannot fall on the child. I also make sure that my environment is very minimal when I have toddlers. I don't have a lot of things that they can just grab. Like, I don't have like a bookshelf that they can start pulling books out of. I remove as many things as I can. And that in itself is going to save so much frustration. I'm not going to have to discipline the child for getting into dangerous situations, because I have now placed boundaries over those dangerous or places that I don't want them to get into. Now let's talk about when you go to public places. It's important that you prepare your children when you're going to go out, and you tell them about the expectation that you have for where they're going. So if you're going to the grocery store, you're going to say, we're going grocery shopping. You're going to be inside of the shopping cart. We're not going to be touching anything off the shelves. We're going to be in and we're going to be out. Or if you're going to be going to a department store, the same thing. You want to tell your child what to expect and what is expected of their behavior. Make sure that when you go out, you have a child that's not hungry and that's not tired. I feel so bad when I see a child and I see the mom trying to shop and the child is crying, and you can tell the child is hungry or tired and they're frustrated, and then the mom is frustrated. Don't take a child out to a store if they're hungry and tired. And if at all possible that someone can watch them at home, leave them at home. It really will save you so much heartache. When I go shopping to the stores, like the grocery stores, and I'm bringing a toddler, I put them in the shopping cart, or in the buggy as some people call it. I don't give them an option to get out of there. I have that boundary of, you're going to be in the shopping cart, you're going to be in the shopping buggy, whatever you guys call it, or you're going to be in the stroller the whole time. I made the mistake with my first child where the child starts crying when you put them in the shopping cart and you let them out, and then they start running around the store grabbing things off the shelf. No, there's a boundary. You need to be inside of the shopping cart for your own safety and for my own sanity. And that is always going to be the expectation when we go inside the store. So if you cry, then you're gonna cry, but you're going to be inside of the shopping cart. The same goes for the restaurant. If I go to the restaurant, the child is going to be on the high chair, and they're going to be buckled into their high chair. They're not going to be on top of me or walking around the booths. They're going to be on the high chair, and I'm not going to bring electronics to entertain the child or to help the child behave better, because in the end, what we want is children that have good self-regulation. So when I go to restaurants and I see parents that have kids on devices, I realize that they're not teaching their children self-regulation. And as soon as they remove that device, the child starts acting crazy and throwing things and wants to get out of the chair and is out of control because they have not learned how to self-regulate. So I never give children electronics at a restaurant, in a car ride, anywhere. I don't give them a device to help them behave better. And I think that's why when I go to restaurants, when I'm in a car ride, when I'm at church, they can just sit there because they have learned to self-soothe, they have learned to self-regulate. When I have toddlers, let's say that I have kids that are 2 and below, I'll keep them in a stroller, I'll keep them in a baby carrier, I'll keep them close to me. They have this boundary. When I'm at church, they are either in a stroller or they're in the baby carrier. They're not walking around and or they're sitting on my lap. I also don't bring like a church bag with tons of toys and snacks and all types of things. I think what happens with that, from my own experience, is that they make more noise with it. They behave worse, and I'm not teaching them self-regulation again. If I start giving them my car keys, I don't want them to put my car keys in their mouth. I don't want them to put my pen in their mouth. So I don't bring something to give them when they're there. I want them to just learn how to pay attention, how to focus, how to self-regulate. And that another thing is, if you're at church, use your nurseries at church where you can leave your children at the nurseries if your child would stay. And if not, just keep the child with you on a stroller, on a baby carrier, sitting on your lap, without snacks, without toys, without any of it. And with time, it's going to get better. I pull my kids out of church if they're being loud, and I'll have them walk around the lobby. Sometimes I'll stand up in the back of the church and kind of just rock them around a little bit, things like that. But I will not bring things to entertain them. And I think that's what's helped my children have better focus, concentration, and better self-regulation. Now let's talk about, let's say, crossing the street. I had a friend that said, you know, JD, I really don't like hitting children. But there's one thing that I will hit my children for is if they try to do things that will get them into danger. So, for example, I had one of my girls just run into the street. And so I just gave her a spanking after that because I wanted her to learn that that's dangerous and she could lose her life to that. And I told her that I didn't think that that was the best way to go about it because, number one, children don't understand that a car can kill them, that there's dangers with cars. So we have to prepare them beforehand. So before we even go to cross the street, me as the parent and as their regulator, right, I have to say, I need your hand. We're going to cross the street. Cars are dangerous and they can hurt people. And I need to have your hand, or I need to be carrying you, or you need to be in the stroller. So that way I am removing the ability of the child just running into the street, just running into a parking lot. Instead of giving them a spanking, that really didn't teach the child anything because as soon as, a few weeks pass by, they're going to forget that they can't cross the street. We need to, when children get into these type of situations, we are responsible for them and for their safety, and giving them violence for it is not going to help things get better. It's not going to teach them anything, and it's going to promote more violence in the child. Let's talk about logical consequences now. So one of the things that I love using with toddlers is logical consequences. I will remove the object that's being causing trouble. So let's say you have a toy, you have Legos, you have blocks, and you're throwing them, then those blocks go away. Let's say we're at a restaurant and you're playing with your water and you're blowing bubbles, or you're doing things with your cup of water. Your cup, I'll say, don't do that. Don't blow bubbles in your cup. If you keep doing it, your cup is going to go away. One warning, then I don't count. That's another thing that I don't do. I don't say 1, 2. I don't do that. It just doesn't teach direct obedience for children. So I'll just tell the child, if you do it again, it's going to go away. So the child does it again, the water goes away now. There's no water for you. And if you want water, I'm going to physically have to give it to you and hold it for you. You lost your rights to the water. Same goes for food. If you are playing with your food, I will give you a warning. There's no playing with the food. There's no throwing food. If you are, then I'm going to remove your food away from you, and I'm going to be feeding it to you now because you are not doing it the right way. If you're playing with a scooter, if you're playing with a toy, if you're playing with anything the wrong way, that goes away. If you have taken some crayons and you have written all over the table with them or all over the walls with them, I'm not going to yell at you. I'm going to say a firm no. And then you're going to be part of the cleaning process. I'm going to get a sponge for you. I'm going to get soapy water. And you're going to be there scrubbing that wall for as long as mom tells you to, or as long as you've gotten those things off the wall. I want to teach you what it takes to clean that wall, because that is the only way that that child will understand. If you spilled something on the floor, if you've been throwing food, you're going to be cleaning that up as well. You're going to be part of the cleanup process. Those are logical consequences. If you're fighting over a toy with sibling and you can't come up with a way to share it, that toy, what I usually do in my home is I put it on top of the refrigerator. I'll take it to the garage and I'll put it in a little box in the garage. And I will say, the toy is going away. If you can come up with a resolution with you and your sister, a way of sharing with it, you let me know. Otherwise, it's gone away. Most of the time, they'll even forget about the toy and they'll go on. And it's really helpful to do that. And then I'll bring the toy back and they'll play with it again a few days later. I want to quickly share with you about elemental phonics. These are basics phonics lessons to begin reading. I created this system to help all of my children to learn how to read by the age of 3. And they used to be in flashcard form, and then I put it in the format of a book. This is a progression chart where children can track their progress with stickers for every lesson. And then they start off with letter sounds. So the child is learning all of their letter sounds, which is the basics of phonics. Then they're moving on to consonant and vowel blends. As you can see, the consonants are in red so that they can elongate the vowels, which make it easier to blend. As they progress through those, they're going to get to reading some of the most common word families. Word families make it easier for children to learn to read. And again, the vowels are in red for elongating. Towards the back of the book, they're going to get to start reading their own phonetic sentences, which is very exciting for kids. So if you're looking for a book to teach your children how to read, Elemental Phonics will cover the 44 phonograms of the English language. We also have the book in audio format now if you have children who have issues with reading, such as dyslexia. I'll link all of the links below the description box of the video. So now let's talk about Timeout. I'm not into the gentle parenting movement where kids cannot be placed on timeout, where you can't have any type of consequences for children. No, I have consequences for children at a very young age. As you can see, I have boundaries that I've set in place, physical boundaries, boundaries around the home. I have logical consequences, and I also implement time out. I think it's a powerful tool for behavior modification. You are changing location for that child. You're giving them a time to reflect on what they're doing wrong, a time to cool down, a time to stop what they are doing, a removal of privileges as well, because you were playing in the playground and you're playing the wrong way, or you're not listening to me, you're climbing in the wrong spot. I'm going to have you sit down on a timeout, and you're not going to play in the playground anymore because you haven't been playing the way that you should. So you're going to be sitting right here next to mom while all the other kids play, and then you can go back in a few minutes. That is the way we do it. So timeout, if you're hitting, if you've pulled your sister's hair, if you have done something inappropriate that I cannot find the logical consequence for, you're going to be in timeout if you're this age. And I'm going to either put you in your pack and play, and I'm going to say a firm no. No hitting, no biting, whatever it is. And you're going to be in there, and I'm going to use a very firm voice with you. I'm not going to use violence. I'm not going to throw you in there. I'm not going to hurt you in any way. I'm going to place you in there with self-control, with a firm voice. You're going to be either in the pack and play. You're going to be sitting in a place like the dining room. I use my dining room as a place where I put my kids on a timeout because it is an area that is boring. There's not much in there. There aren't any toys, and it's just a table and some chairs and some decor. They really can't do much in there. So I have a spot in there, just a chair that they can sit in there when I have a timeout. They can look out the window, but they are on timeout. And when you are on timeout, there's no playing. There is no fun for you. Usually what pediatricians recommend is 1 minute for every year of life. So that is a good guideline. So if you're 1 minute, if you're 2 minutes, if you're 3 minutes. But I don't only go by that guideline. I go by when you're calm. I need to see that you are calm before you can get out of timeout. And I'm going to wait, and I'm going to wait until you have self-regulated and you can come out of the timeout. And when you come out of timeout, I'm going to tell you, we're going to talk about what you did wrong again. If you pinch somebody, I'm going to show you what pinching is. There's no pinching. I'm going to show you on my arm. There's no pinching. There's no hitting. I'm going to show you on my own arm. No hitting. There's whatever. I'm going to say it again, what they are not to do. Soft, loving. I want to show them alternative actions as well. When you're upset, I want you to come get mom. I want you to go get a teddy bear. I want you to go jump on a trampoline. I want you to go play with Play-Doh. Give them alternative actions, because that is a way to help them to substitute those negative behavior patterns. Don't expect your children to behave good right away. If they've been biting for a long time, if they've been hitting for a long time, if they've been in disobedience for a long time, it's going to take at least 30 days of consistent consequences for them to change their behavior. It's going to take work to get out of that. They have set a little pathway in their brain, and in order to have a new neural pathway where they're not going through that same old one again, they have to continuously choose another action instead of hitting and instead of yelling. And so it takes time for them to start changing and molding behavior, but consequences work, and they are not cruel. It is not cruel to place your child in a place on a timeout. What is cruel though is yelling, is hitting, is using violence with children. That breaks my heart, and I am not in accordance to that. And I think that using consequences works. Now I want to talk about some other things that, you know, we're dealing with toddlers here, and toddlers, you know, a lot of times they're just hungry, or they're just tired, or they just need to bond and have a little, you know, bonding session with mom or dad. They need some connection time with mom or dad. And it is very important, because whenever you have a good bond with your child, you are of high influence, and they tend to want to follow instructions. They tend to want to please you more because they have that bond and connection with you. But if they look at you as a tyrant and as an enemy, they're less likely to respect you and to want to cooperate to your request. So take a time every day, even if it's just 10 minutes a day, where you're bonding with your kids, you're playing catch outside, you're wrestling on the floor, you're doing the things that they love to do, because that is going to help a ton. And also be mindful, children get tired, children get hungry, and they get cranky when they're experiencing these physical needs. If you want to know more about consequences, because as kids get older, you want to start implementing other consequences to help mold behavior. I have a whole series on consequences on my membership community, where I go in detail of different consequences that you can use in your home, and I give you detailed examples on what to do to help children change behavior. You don't have to be a tyrant. You don't have to hit. You don't have to yell to get children to behave good. There's better ways. I always want to bring you back to God as well. When your children come out of timeout, when you've done giving that consequence, I want you to give that child grace now. And I don't want you to hold a grudge against that child. I want you to just, you know, give them a hug afterwards. It's okay. I give my children hugs after timeout. I'm like, it's okay. And I'll pray with them, and I'll sit there and I'll pray over my kids, whatever they're dealing with. And I want them to hear it out loud, because it is powerful when you say prayers out loud for your kids. And that is what we do. After consequences, we're praying together, and we're asking God to help us through all of these different battles that we're dealing with on a daily basis. So I hope that you have enjoyed this video. If you want to know more about boundaries, consequences, check out my consequence series on my private membership. I'll link that below in the description box. I hope you have enjoyed the video, and I hope to hear from you in the comments. I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.